What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from SBMTG on the YouTube.com down there. We like magic, you know by now. In any case, today we're doing something that a lot of people ask me for, and I very rarely do, but I'm really excited about this deck. This is red-green land destruction in Modern. Again, usually I don't do Modern decks. It's only when I'm really stoked on a deck that I do it in Modern. I did Lantern Control last year. I did Soul Sisters the year before that. And I guess this time we're going to do Land Destruction because even though a lot of people take this deck as a joke, it is very serious and has good matchups against some of the best decks in the format. Seriously. So let me show you what it is. The first thing I probably need to show you is all the different Land Destruction cards in the deck. That makes some sense. So let me show you those. There's 10 different cards in the deck that destroy lands. Here they are. We're going to play 4 copies of Stone Rain, 4 copies of Wonvuli Acid Moss, and 2 copies of Beast Within. Beast Within looks disadvantageous, but it busts everything up. Lands, of course, artifacts, creatures, planeswalkers, whatever, and it's instant speed. Instant speed is awesome, by the way, if you're playing against control decks, because they'll leave up mana for counter spells. But with Beast Within, you can just blow up a land at the end of their turn and then just play whatever you want to during your turn. That's actually really good. So Beast Within, even though, again, it gives them a 3/3, we can deal with that. That's not a big deal. We just want the ability to bust not only lands, but more or less any permanent, whatever. So that's awesome. For only 3 mana at instant speed, yeah, it's totally worth. Stone Rain, the daddy, the old buddy right there. It's just one of the oldest cards in all of Magic, but it's still great when played on turn 2 on the play. We've got some 1 mana mana accelerators in this deck. So turn 2 Stone Rain is very possible, and basically one of the entire game plans of the deck. If we are on the play and we turn 2 Stone Rain, then that is very hard to come back from for some decks. Just absolutely crippling. So let's play all 4 of those. And Wonvuli Acid Moss is just fantastic. It looks really weird, and you don't see it every day, obviously. But we can also get this on turn 2 under certain circumstances. But mostly we're going to play it on turn 3 following that turn 2 Stone Rain. And that can not only kill one of their lands, but get a forest for us, which is very important, ramping us and destroying one of their lands, especially if we've already hit them with a Stone Rain. Acid Moss is a great follow-up. But perhaps the most critical piece of the entire deck doesn't actually destroy lands. It just makes them useless. We're going to play 4 copies of Blood Moon in the deck. And the price is fairly high, but it's worth it if you're going to play this deck. It's the entire reason to play it in Modern, to be honest. You just destroy lands around Blood Moon and leave the lands that they still have completely useless to them. If they're playing mono red, if that happens, then Blood Moon is useless. But against every other deck in the format, which is a lot of decks, Blood Moon is just absolutely crippling to a lot of decks. So Blood Moon, got to play all 4 copies because it makes the deck what it is. I promise you. Play Blood Moon. Do it. Now, if we're going to be getting these 3 mana cards on turn 2, and even sometimes these 4 mana cards on turn 2, then we have to play a fair amount of ramp, and all of our ramp is only going to cost 1 mana. We want to get it out on turn 1 so that we can start doing crazy stuff on turn 2. Let me show you all that stuff. We're going to play 4 copies of Arbor Elf. We're going to do that. 4 copies of Utopia Sprawl and 2 copies of Birds of Paradise. Utopia Sprawl is acceleration. It's mana fixing. It doesn't care about Lightning Bolt, and it doesn't care about Anger of the Gods. Yeah, definitely play Utopia Sprawl. It is actually the best ramp in this deck. Arbor Elf is also crazy because it can untap a land that has Utopia Sprawl on it, and it can also lead to 4 drops on turn 2. Here's how you do that, by the way. Turn 1, you'll play Forest or Stomping Ground and Arbor Elf. Turn 2, you'll play Forest or, again, Stomping Ground, and you'll play Utopia Sprawl on the untapped land. You just use your Arbor Elf. You tap the Utopia Sprawl land, get your 2 mana, and then untap it with Arbor Elf, tap it again. That's 4 mana on turn 2, and you can play them on the Acid Moss or maybe one of our creatures that we're playing. So totally possible to get 4 drops out on turn 2 in this deck, which is just great. Having the option to play Acid Moss turn 2 is really nice. So play the Arbor Elves over the Elvish Mystics or Lawn Elves. And then Birds of Paradise is just in there to maximize our ability to ramp for 1 mana. It fixes mana 2. Just don't want to go too crazy with the ramp, but 2 copies of Birds, I think, is the other best thing we can play to ramp our mana for just 1. Now, we've got all this ramp in the deck. We don't want to just play turn 2 Stone Rain and play you waste 10 slots on ramp, So we got to play some big guys so we can take advantage of that window where our opponent is deprived of resources and trying to get back on their feet after we put them on the ropes. We want to take advantage of that window, so we'll play some huge dudes in the mid-game to really close the game out. And here they are. We're going to play 2 copies of Obstinate Baloth, 2 copies of Thragtusk, 1 copy of Stormbreath Dragon, and 4 copies of Inferno Titan. Now, Inferno Titan is obviously the most important thing here, you know. Not only can it just come in the mid-game, start wrecking face. If our opponent's on the back foot and they don't have the resources to deal with it, it can close the game out quicker than almost anything in the format. So there's just the practical, basic reason to play Inferno Titan that it's crazy. But like with Beast Within, you know, if we kill a land and give them a 3/3, then we can kill it with Inferno Titan. It's really, really good against some of the small decks in the format that we are admittedly kind of bad against. Like, it's pretty good against Infect. It's not bad against Affinity. You know, it can take out sometimes two things against those decks. So Inferno Titan's a lot of play in that. Play 4 copies of that all day. That's what we're looking for in the mid game. But Stormbreath Dragon and these other creatures have, you know, different specialized purposes in this format. Stormbreath Dragon is just good against Path to Exile, good against Nahiri. You know, there's a lot of things that is very, very good against. So Stormbreath all day, also decent against Control, can hit him for a lot when it goes monstrous. So there is that too. So play Stormbreath, at least the 1 copy. And then Thragtusk and Obstinate Baloth. Now, Baloth we can play sometimes on turn 2, and that's crazy against aggro, which again is our worst matchup. So if we have a crazy play available against them, then that is good for us. It's also decent against the 8-rack decks, obviously. It's an unboltable creature on turn 2 or 3, so that's good too. Just yes to Obstinate Baloth. It fills a lot of holes and is a great mid-range creature that puts us back into the game against our worst matchup. And then Thragtusk is sort of similar, you know, gains us the life, puts us back in the game. If they happen to bolt it, it gives us a creature. So also fine against aggro. We want to shore up our worst matchup. And these 2 creatures, Baloth and Thragtusk, help out a lot in terms of that. Let's finish it out with all the other spells that we're playing in the deck, because, you know, we've got to play some other spells. There's some removal in there. Got to tie up all the loose ends. Let me show you all those right now. We're going to play 3 copies of Bonfire of the Damned, 2 copies of Lightning Bolt, and 1 copy of Chandra Pyromaster. As far as the 3 copies of Bonfire, you'll often see 4 here, but I really don't like getting it in my opening hand, and usually we can draw it. If there's just 3 copies, we're a little bit more likely to miracle it, but not as likely to have it in our opening hand. I think 3 is the right number, but Bonfire can often end the game, and it can also just like blow out your opponent's side of the board sometimes. So Bonfire is still one of the best top decks in the format, if not the best, and it can just end the game. So let's play Bonfire. Definitely. Lightning Bolt, again, shoring up our matchups against aggro. You can just hit him for 3 to the dome. That's cool. Take out small planeswalkers, whatever. So a couple of copies of Lightning Bolt is good because we have access to red mana, and this is modern. And then Chandra Pyromaster, just again, ties up loose ends against some of these aggro decks. So at least the 1 copy, but I don't want to see her all day. And here's the mana base right here. There's only 21 lands in the deck because we're playing all of that ramp. It's all at 1 mana. We mostly just want to have untapped green sources on turn 1 so we can fix our mana from there. So this is basically a bunch of things that fetch green mana and then green mana and Stomping Grounds. And we'll throw a Mountain in for good measure because we want to be able to like play Blood Moon, you know, before it just goes into effect. So yeah, it's a pretty simple mana base. Here it is. Here's our sideboard right here. And again, we're shoring up the aggro matchup a lot in this board here. Sudden Shock, Fracturing Gust, fantastic if we can get to it against Affinity. Kitchen Finks will go in a lot against aggro. We'll take out a lot of our land destruction. We'll put in the Kitchen Finks and a lot of these other cards like Sudden Shock. Ancient Grudge is great against Affinity as well. Thrun goes the opposite direction, a lot better against the control decks. They have a hard time answering it. Baloth, again, aggro. Dismember, aggro. Anger of the Gods, aggro. So we're really trying to shore up our one really, truly awful matchup. And here are your power rankings for the deck. A final score of Nintendo 64, which is pretty good. You know, we don't expect Land Destruction to be the best deck in the format or anything. So I wasn't expecting a 70 out of this or anything. But a mid-60 is definitely respectable. And once we're on the play, this deck is really, really dangerous against even aggro. You know, turn 2 Stone Rain is just ridiculous, especially followed up by an Acid Moss. That's just crazy. If a deck gets a slow start, or if our opponent keeps a 2-land hand and doesn't get a whole lot of help from then on out, then we will take over the game. Like, it's just not even that hard to leave our opponent stranded with just 1 or 2 mana. They really can't do a whole lot from there. So if they get a slow start, we are in the money. If we're on the play, we're in the money. So good deck right here. It actually has favorable matchups against a lot of stuff. It has decent matchups against Abzan, really, really good matchups against Jund from everything I've read about the deck. And a lot of mid-range decks. It can have great matchups against decks that want to play 3 or 4 colors. awesome matchups because they're going to have a ton of non-basic lands that Blood Moon is just going to completely make stupid. So the deck is actually a little bit more respectable than you might think. A lot of people are going to laugh at land destruction, whatever. But again, super favorable matchups against almost anything that's not aggro, honestly. Good 50-50 matchup against like Bant Eldrazi, so there's that, you know. A lot of good matchups for the deck. So try it out. Let me know how you feel, because it's only going to cost, and again, this is modern, so it's going to cost you a couple of bucks, but nowhere near as bad as a lot of modern decks. Only going to cost you about $400 to sleeve this thing up. Now, again, we're talking about modern, so we got to play fetch lands, we got to play some shock lands. That accounts for a great deal of the price right there. The Blood Moons account for like $150 or so, something like that. So, you know, just get the lands, get the Blood Moons, and the rest of the shell is going to cost peanuts compared to that. Honestly, even our big creatures like Inferno Titan are like $1 a piece. So it's not that hard to build if you're trying to be serious about modern. And yes, I do think you can play this deck, especially at an LGS, and be serious about modern. It's a lot of fun. It can take out more things than you might think, and in certain situations where you're on the play or they get mana screwed, the deck is it's just a lot harder to beat. I was going to say nearly unbeatable. It's not. If you're on the play, it's just really, really hard for them to beat. And if they get mana screwed, you're almost certainly going to win. That's where you're unbeatable. So try this thing out. It's actually really, really, really cool. I like it. I put my seal of approval on it. Again, I don't do much modern, but when I do modern, it's a deck I believe in, and I believe in this. A lot of fun. Try it out. But by the way, we're also really good against Tron, Scapeshift, and Jeskai and Grixis Control. So more awesome matchups. Just try it out. I'm telling you, the deck looks good. Fantastic deck. I promise you, I like the deck. But anyway, I can gush about it all night. You let me know how you feel now. Go to the comments section. Tell me how you feel about the deck. Is it too weird? You know, there's some new players that have never seen land destruction before. I'm telling you, the deck is really dumb. And like, even newer players, the idea of blowing up lands, like blowing up the one land your opponent needs to make their white mana or whatever, like, is diabolical. So try the stupid thing out and let me know how you feel about it. And in the meantime, you can like the video if you like the video. That would be awesome. You can go check out, if you're watching this in Kaladesh Standard, you can go check out the Kaladesh Standard Land Destruction deck that I released concurrent to this video. It's not as good, but it's still, you know, Land Destruction in Standard. That's at least interesting. So try it out, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, sub if you're new. I haven't finished the YouTube pitch yet, I guess. Sub if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.